Okay, you're all set.
Thank you. Welcome everybody to the second of 2024's Lunchtime Webinar series. We are, of course, going to talk about data since this is the first Friday of the month. As you all likely know, I'm Michael McCarty. Joining us also today, co-hosting is Steve Linus, the other half of the MIS eData Tech Support Project, and Bethany Calderon from the Prolo Project. So welcome. Good to see all of you. I think we're all familiar faces here. This is excellent. Okay. So as you know, from the description of today's meeting, we're just going to jump right in and pick up where we left off from the January meeting that we had together to discuss more about version 2 of the Access template. The reason we're promoting this a little more than usual as far as a new version is because there are a substantial number of differences, mostly visual, changes between version 1 and version 2. And I see some folks, it's kind of trickling in, so I'll kind of slow down here a little bit. Like right at noon, we're going to get in there. So what I was, just for those of you just joining us, we just got started and we're discussing that this topic of today's conversation is version 2 of the Access template. So as you can see on your screen, we plan to have the template available for all of you for downloading on the normal website location next week, week of February 5th. As usual, when we release a template, we'll give you a heads up via the email listserv that we have with our tech support project. If you are not part of that listserv or would like new members, because there's new folks coming into eData all the time, it seems. So if you have anybody new to your agency or new to your data team and would like to be up to date on eData, please do reach out at any time. I know I reach out to you probably once a year, but reach out anytime to be put on the listserv list so that you get emails, including the email that you would see on screen, letting you know once the template is officially posted. There's a couple things we're just finishing up last minute today, and we hope to have it out and available for you next week. We'll be able to share here in a couple minutes some of the items that are new to the template, but I would want to mention a couple things just in general before we turn it over to Steve and he gives you a tour. The first item is that and let me just go to the next slide here. Most of the items and changes that you'll see in version 2 of the template are reorganized pages. We actually had a chance to meet with a few of you a little while ago to discuss maybe some changes you'd like to see in the template. We also had conversations with the division. And Steve has worked very hard over the past, I think it's almost 2 months now, easy, on making pretty substantial changes to the appearance and organization in the template. So what you'll notice are reorganized pages, a new way to navigate via a switchboard. Of course, when going through all of the different queries, found a couple bugs. We cleaned those up. So what you'll see is a different looking template that we hope in the long run, once you're kind of past some short-term adjustments, that we hope is more common sense in navigation topics, things organized by topic, rather than just the less descript page names and whatnot. One thing that you'll note, and I'm going to get back to that email I mentioned a moment ago, is that we'll send a list of the changes also in the email. In addition to that link that we'll provide you that gives you the chance to go get the new template file, in there is a list of the changes and also some directions if you run performance reports. And I think what we'll do is when we get towards the end of the presentation this morning, well, it's afternoon now, get to the end of the presentation, we'll probably have a little extra information for those of you that run performance reports. It's going to be also similar to what you know from the past, but there's just a few small but notable changes that we'll want to review. So if you run performance reports, just be ready to stay on for a couple extra minutes here at the end, and we'll preview that towards the end. I think, Steve, that's probably a good segue to turn it over to you. So I will stop my share, and if you want to go ahead and take over and give us our tour.
I'll give it a second to load. Make sure you're seeing what I'm seeing.
Looks good. Yep, looks good.
Okay, this is the new look of the main page of the template, and I'll just give you some brief overview of what has happened. The header information is now all contained in a banner on the left side of the page, including the eData update button, which you need to run after you export from eData. It's the same functionality, nothing has changed in that regard. And the switchboard functionality replaces, over on the right side of this page, there used to be some navigation buttons that would take you to certain pages like reports, reports to, that kind of thing. So everything now is accessed via the switchboard, which has some new options in it, including some brand new pages and some old familiar pages, which may have some slight changes to them. Part of what drove a lot of the changes was an increase in the font size and in the width of some of the descriptors and things like that. So some of the old 8-point, 10-point font is now up to 12 and above to make it easier to read, more accessible. And the colors that we use, for example, over here is the PDE approved color for being the easiest to read and things like that. So we've tried really hard to make it more accessible and yet retain all of the functionality that the old template had. So this page actually, the big difference here, probably you'll catch is that these buttons are now alphabetized. Before they were in sort of a, I don't even know what kind of order, probably historic order. And as well as all of these subgroups are all alphabetized now. So hopefully it'll just be a little quicker to go and find whatever it is you're looking for. So this one, I'm just going to walk through each of these from a high level. This is the assessments page is the first one we come to. Notice the left side of every page will look exactly the same. The switchboard will be in exactly the same spot. The close button will always be at the top right side of the text. Some screens or menus are wider than others, so the close button moves, which you don't have to use if you don't want to, depending on how your template is set up. This little X in the tab, if you're using tabs, will also close it as well. So the basic navigation. The assessment reports page is brand new, but nothing on here is really new. We took 6 reports from the reports page, and we took 3 reports from the reports to page and 2 reports from the data checking page and put them on here. So this one in particular is a really popular one from the data checking page. Adults without a post-test and hours greater than 40, and you can pick whatever number you want in here to run this report. So that's probably an important one to remember, that it's on the assessment page. Assignments is also a new page, and we moved let's see, 3 items from the reports to page, 2 items from the reports page, and 3 items from the data checking page. And then I reformatted some of these. For example, this adult count by selection was a multi-line selection off of the reports page down the left side. And it's now just, it's in a sentence actually. So you can pick enrolled or served adult count by selection in classes sorted by either program component or service description. And then you can run the report here or run the details. So I've tried really hard to make it more intuitive when you're looking at this, and also trying to align the buttons so that it kind of just makes sense. Also put a few new little notes, like here under adults shared with subcontractors. This actually opens 2 tabs. And I've tried to note that if that helps you. It's also usually in the description. If you click on the name of the report, the description hopefully I got them all in there. If not, I'll get there. But it says it opens 2 tabs. So moving forward, class group reports hasn't changed actually, other than you can see the font is much larger. Everything is still here, just increased in size and kind of moved around a little. It was suggested that the red font wasn't as accessible, so I'm using an asterisk instead of the red font to indicate that these reports with an asterisk down here also can use these 3 selections here that you can put in wildcards, and you can do all sorts of things. The instructions are here, and we've gone over this before, but please contact us if you have any questions, if you haven't run this kind of thing before. Oh, and this is a good example of details is now the default for what used to be a raw data button. I standardized the word details instead of raw data. We use them interchangeably, but on the screen, you'll only see details. After that, contracted enrollment. This is the same. I added some colors over here to help differentiate between 5461, 64, and 259, just to make it a little easier to read. Otherwise, it's exactly the same. You still enter your updated enrollment if you have subcontractors. If you don't have subcontractors, you don't have to do anything on this screen. Corrections add is exactly the same. Many of you don't probably even use this one, which is fine. Data checking is a popular one. This only has items that are on the data checking report. In other words, on the previous data checking page, there were 90%, 95% were bold, but there were a couple, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or so that were not bolded, including an entire section of monthly attendance hours that we took off the data checking page. So this is a very easy, and it's alphabetized now. So when you get your data check summary report, which you run right here, and you're looking for adults age under 16 or over 95, you just go here, boom, you can run this report. You can see exactly which adults showed up in the number for the count on your data check summary report. These buttons still work like they did before, counting your adults, staff, tutors, classes, groups, parents. Nothing changed there. Data validation reports is the same page, plus I added the family lit data validation. So data validation is all on one page now. The old one had, or the previous one had a button that took you over to another family lit page, but it's all right here now. You just pick your, and if you have both, then you can run all of them right from here. This is a new format. It's more compact. All your table 4s are right here, boom, 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 and your table 4Bs are across like this, and then your core outcomes across like this for your 3 contracts, 64, 61, and 259. Hopefully a little easier and easier to understand. The family lit reports is essentially the same, some, other than the larger fonts and a little organization. It still has everything that it had there before. And family lit data checking now is just the data checking items that are on the report. And I've given you the option to run the data check summary report from here. It's the same data check summary report from the data checking page. This button or this button runs the same thing, but here, if you're looking for your family lit items, they're all right here, alphabetized on this page, and it has the buttons that work just like they did before, counting all these different sections here. Ours is a new page where we borrowed 10 items from the reports page and 5 items from the reports 2 page and 13 items from the data checking page. And so and then we put them all together into this hours section. Everything here I cleaned up, like this used to be a multi-line section at the top of the, golly, what page was that? That was
Reports.
a reports page.
Mhm.
And so I cleaned it up, again, trying to move to single line. So you can select what you want and then run the report, that kind of thing. A little cleaner and neater. This section here, which was on the data checking page on the upper right half of the page, had 12 items in it. And so what I discovered was there was a lot of there were pairs of reports there that were in the description actually instructing you to go look at the other report and do a comparison. So I just put them together. So these 4 updated reports now include both the count and the hours, and I added a new line for the average hours. So when you run these, you'll see that there's 3 and it tells you right here in the type column, you get average hours by month, count by month, and then total hours by month. So you can do your analysis quick, easy, by month, and just check that out much faster than opening multiple tabs and trying to do the math for the average and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that is a win for those that were running those monthly things before. Otherwise, the rest of this is all the same. It all runs the same that it did before. You can pick hours here. Adults with 0 hours in the last X number of days. You can even add your own. That's this little edit list items here. You can type in your own if you want to have, let's say you want to run it for 45 days. You can add that to your list. And then you can, if you always, and then you don't have to type it in every time. You can just pick it and then you can run it. Other than that, those are all existing reports. There is an option to go to the main page, which is the first page that's open, but sometimes, depending on how you run your template, it might be nice to just pick it from the switchboard instead of having to click around and figure out where you are. As you can see, I'm starting to get a lot of tabs open, and so it's sometimes easy to get lost if you have a lot open. Miscellaneous reports was formerly called reports 2 page. So there's some familiarity here. For example, the family literacy enrollment, the adult enrollment, and then this 3 report combo thing. This was all on the left side before of the reports 2 page. So everything here was originally on reports 2. We just named it miscellaneous. So nothing really new there. The NRS reports hasn't changed at all, other than making the font bigger so you can read it. Everything works just like it did before. The outcomes page is a new page, and we borrowed 10 items from the reports page, which is what you see right here. So these were all on the reports page before. The adult data report was a multi-line, like a 4-line item on the page. Here it just is a single line. You pick your agency, you pick your adult. I added an option, I believe, in here under agency, that tells you how many are currently served in that agency. This is probably maybe not as helpful at the local level, but for the advisors, when they load Allstate, it's huge, because they have a list as long as this page with all the agencies in there, and then it shows how many adults are loaded are being served, just as a quick, and that tells you when you pick one of those, then that tells you how many you're going to open when you go over here. And so there's 475 adults in this list, and so that just gives you a little heads up when you get into running these different reports and things. Otherwise, everything here, again, I streamlined some of these, like outcomes by agency, into single lines. So you just pick the agency you want to run the report for, and then the report is all right here in the usual report button. So that's outcomes and performance reports. It looks very similar. The biggest change is we have a new backup folder, which we're going to talk in detail about after this. But I put it in yellow here to give you a heads up because this is new. It's been going to your documents folder, and because of something from Microsoft that isn't quite working like it used to, we've had to change it. So that's new. Everything else is the same. You still build your performance on a regular basis, however often as you need it, and you can back it up. This is useful when you're transferring, like we're going from version 1 to version 2. After this meeting, we're going to talk a little bit more about how to do that. And then, of course, you want to restore it in the new, when you have a new empty template. Otherwise, the functionality here is exactly the same, just in larger font. Almost there. Scrub functions are still the same. They haven't changed at all. And there's one more hiding down here. That's subcontractors. This is really mostly for MIS, but it is available if you need it. So now you can see, look at all these tabs. I have so many tabs open that I actually get a little arrow over here so that I can scroll back to see some of the other tabs, which is why I was saying sometimes it's kind of nice to be able to jump to the main screen from the switchboard menu. And if a tab is open and you pick it again, it just takes you to the same tab that's open. See, it put me way over here because I already had it open. But if I hadn't, it would have opened it at the end of all my tabs. So I'm going to pause for any questions, chat questions, or just unmute yourself. I overwhelmed everyone. It was
Well,
a lot to take in.
To that point, Steve, and to piggyback on what you all described, and thank you for that overview. That was an excellent overview of all the little nooks and crannies and different places in the template. While everyone's maybe thinking of additional questions, what I will anticipate is you might have a question of how are we going to know where all these things are? And there's a couple things that are going to happen. One, with the email that I mentioned several times earlier that will come out announcing the release of this template, we will also include a document. It'll be an attachment. It'll be an Excel file, and it's formatted as a table so that you can sort and filter by various criteria if you'd like. And that has an accounting of all the existing queries from version 1 that were moved to a different page. So when Steve had mentioned several of those things earlier, as he was going through, like, say, the hours page or the assessments page, which are new, most of those queries, as Steve mentioned, are not new. They are instead put here from another place that you're familiar with. And hopefully it makes sense because most of them have assessment in their name, so you maybe expect to see them on the assessment page. But in any case, we'll have a document attached to the email that you can use in the short term to help you find things that may be favorites, or you may just poke around and find them pretty easily. Hopefully the navigation works that way where it's just, it's kind of intuitive. And I say short term when I talk about the document because we are in the process right now that we have the version 2 look and feel and organization kind of set. We're starting the process of revising the documents that are available at the PA Adult Resources alongside the template file. We're revising those documents to reflect the changes here in version 2. So the template guide, the setting up and using the template modules, and there's also a webinar about the performance reports. Those items will ultimately be updated within about the next 4 to 5 weeks. So it's not going to be an immediate process, but we, as Steve noted, I think the key is that we are available for any questions you may have. And the most complicated part is just making sure to back up and update your performance reports. So we're going to spend a few minutes on that. But again, like Steve mentioned, let's just pause for a second. I just want to see if any of you have general questions about the overview, that Steve showed or anything about how the release process is going to work. And after we take those questions, we'll kind of dismiss those of you that don't need to stay and let you go. And we'll just keep those of you that are on performance. So any questions? There's certainly no substitute for getting this tool in your hands so that you can start using it and experimenting with it, click around, see what it has. I think the key that we may have already sort of emphasized either overtly or just subtly is that there are not really any functional changes to the template. Queries and reports that you know and love, that you're used to using, that you leverage to make data decisions, those items are all still in the template. We haven't removed anything. Some things have been renamed, which will be in the document that I mentioned earlier. Some things, like Steve displayed, were combined, but the information is all there, and the things that you're showing, that Steve was showing, it's all legacy items, if you will. It's all existing things. We did have a question from Barb. How many sessions is eData going to do at the PACE conference? We are scheduled for one session. It is Tuesday morning, a first session, bright and early Tuesday morning. And we are going to be presenting, so thank you, Barb, for the opportunity to put a plug in. We're going to be presenting queries and reports and how to build them, how to create them. So in the off chance that all of these items, once you're used to them, don't provide you with the question for the data and don't provide you an answer to the data questions you have, please feel free, for those of you going to PACE, to join us Tuesday morning. We're going to bring along a computer and a copy of Access and probably some bogus data, and we're going to have at it with creating some queries and things and all the considerations that go along with that. And we'll just we'll have some ideas of our own, but if you bring your own ideas, we will be able to just sort of take that and run. So that's probably a long-winded answer, Barb, more than you wanted, but that's what we've got planned for PACE, so that'll be fun. And we'll plug that again here over the next couple months too. All right, so let's do this. I want to just make sure I know Fridays are for some of you limited and or busy, just to play catch up for everything else that you didn't get done during the rest of the week. So if you do not run performance reports in the template, and you do not need to know about performance reports, that's all we have for you. And you are more than free to go. We'll see you next month, of course. And if you do run performance reports, please stay on. We won't take too much of your time, but we want to make sure we emphasize a couple things that are both routine that you're used to, but also a couple things that are new for this specific situation, going from version 1 to version 2. So Steve, how would you like, do you want to maybe start, Steve, with just a basic overview of the performance report backup and restore process, and then maybe we can add to that the detail of what we want to make sure folks know about and what I'll say right before we kind of pass it back to you is the instructions we're about to provide and the overview are going to be also in that email. So it's going to be a packed email, but the one that you get reminding you that version 2 is available is going to have these instructions as well. So just as before, you don't have to take furious notes and remember all the details. We'll provide you those notes, and always, and I would say too, during the week that follows the release of version 2 of the template, please feel free to reach out to us. We can always connect via Zoom and we can connect all kinds of ways to make sure you get what you want. But the primary thing that I'll mention now before I hand it over to Steve, because it's critical and it's our fail-safe, is if you have version 1 and you are using and you're creating performance reports, keep your version 1 file. So when you get version 2, you can follow the process that Steve's going to share. But as long as you keep your version 1 file, that serves as your backup. You have your reports in there. You can always recover them from there. So don't get rid of version 1 until you're well into using version 2 and have kind of moved on. That file's not too big, and it serves as a good backup. But so Steve, you want to maybe kind of do an overview then?
Sure. If you backed up your performance reports in version 1, they are written. There's 2 files written to your documents folder, and they are in the middle of the screen here. TBL family lit performance and TBL underscore performance. The TBL underscore family lit performance is a new name for V2 to be consistent with what was the TBL performance. Not to confuse you, we just wanted to go with some more consistency for when you're doing directory work and stuff like that at the file management level. So your documents folder in it, wherever it is, because that's the part that Microsoft keeps kind of moving around, depending on if you have OneDrive or if you have a network drive. I mean, the documents folder can be in different places. And so what we did was we manually, Michael and I, created a new folder under data called Performance Reports Backup, just like you see in the yellow here. And then we use that as the new backup folder inside the template. So you cannot read version 1 backup folders from your documents folder and import them into the version 2. You actually have to physically copy them to the newly created C:\data performance reports backup folder, and then you have to rename table family lit performance and put an underscore in there. Then the version 2 can read when you do a restore, it can find the 2 Excel files in the new backup folder. So not terribly hard, not terribly long, shouldn't even take, a couple of minutes. And we can talk anyone through it or whatever, and we'll send out instructions on how to do all that. But if you were to skip all of those steps and go get your new version 2 and hit the restore button, you will not see any files in the new backup folder because you don't even have it yet. So then you might call us and say, hey, what's going on? And that's fine. We can help you fix it at that point. It's not, you haven't hurt anything, you haven't broken anything. Your data is still there. We just have to put it in a new place, and then the version 2 will find it.
And just to add to, well, folks might be thinking of questions, Steve, to add to what you just mentioned, that extra bit of process of creating the new performance reports backup folder and adding the underscore to TBL family performance is a one-time occurrence. Once everything is up and running in version 2, then the backup and restore function moving forward, including within version 2, is going to accommodate and use everything that you've already set up. So you won't have to go jump through these hoops every single time. For example, you won't have to do this from version 2 to version 3 later this year. You will literally just interact with the backup and restore functions on this page between the 2 versions, and it'll be set to go. You won't have to rename files, you won't have to move files, create folders, or anything like that. So bear with us as we kind of try to create a better mousetrap and make this function a little more, as Steve noted, it was a change that Microsoft made, and the old way worked, but then it stopped working. So moving forward, this ensures compatibility with a wide variety of user machines. And so that's why we had to make this change. And so there's a little bit of growing pain to go along with that, especially in the middle of the year, but it should result in less problems moving forward. That's our hope. Any questions about the performance reports or anything, really, if you've thought of something?
quiet group today.
All right. Yeah. All right. Well, there's a lot to take in, and that there, as said before, there is no substitute for getting in here and just getting after it. Many of you are really advanced users with Access, so you likely won't have any issue other than just figuring out where stuff is if it's moved. So that there's an advantage to experience at this point. It might be just getting used to where everything's kind of moved. But our hope overall with all of these changes was to make a more useful, more intuitive template, especially since we have so many new folks coming into the field of adult ed, and we don't always have the chance to give specific trainings to each one of them. So having a tool that can be sort of pulled out of the box and used without too much prior instruction is our ultimate goal always. Keep us posted with any questions you have as we do release the template. Please let us know if you find any bugs. It's entirely possible. We've tried to test backwards and forwards as many things as we could, but there were a lot of changes. So if you do find any bugs, please don't panic. It might not be you. It might be something going on in the template. So please do reach out, let us know, and we'll try to get that resolved for you, or at least troubleshoot it and figure some things out. Yes, I completely agree. There will definitely be more questions as you get hands-on with the template for sure. And we count on it. So let us know, keep us posted, and we'll hang on the line here for a few minutes as everybody kind of makes their way out. Otherwise, have a lovely weekend. I think for most of Pennsylvania, it's going to be a pretty lovely weekend for February. Sunshine, dry, and not too cold. So I'm looking forward to it, and hope you all have a good weekend too. Get a chance to get outside.
Happy Groundhog Day, right?
How about it? Oh, and just a note, this is recorded. So if you have any other folks at your agency that don't work on Fridays or weren't able to make it, please feel free to share. All right. Be well, everybody. Take care.
Hmm?
And Bethany, thanks as always.